Hello friends, and welcome to our channel Great Saints. And today let's have a look at the life of Saint John Bosco. His feast day, of course, is the 31st of January. And in fact, he is the patron saint of apprentices, educators, laborers, and also magicians and students, of course. And he was canonized in 1934 by Pope Pius XI. And in fact, he was the founder of a whole system, educational system, of rescuing and reforming poor street urchins who were the casualties of the Industrial Revolution. And here is a brilliant quote, a real gem. Perhaps this applies for teachers. It applies to all of us as well. And he tells us, "My sons, in my long experience, very often I have had to be convinced of this great truth. It is easier to become angry than to restrain oneself, and to threaten a boy than to persuade him. Yes, indeed, it is more fitting to be persistent in punishing our own impatience and our pride than to correct the boys. We must be firm but kind, and be patient to them." It was taken from a letter that he wrote. Now, St. John Bosco was born, he was the youngest of 3 children, into a very, very poor family. This was in northwest Italy. His father was a farmhand and died when John was only 2 years old. And so until 12 years of age, he spent his time, John Bosco spent his time trying to support the family by any little means of work that he could do. He worked as a shepherd, he was a farmhand like his father. And of course, because of all of this, he received very, very little education. So how was Providence going to take him and raise him up to become a great saint? We're going to have a look at that right now. Well, at the age of 9, St. John Bosco had the first of his prophetic dreams that he became famous for. So we'll have a look at another of his dreams, the most famous one perhaps, of 2 pillars, about the state of the church in these times, what's going to rescue the church. We'll have a look at that a little later on. But getting back to this first dream, he came across a group of boys in this dream. They were really, really rough boys, and they were swearing and they were cussing. And so John started to become angry with them, and he raised his fist. He wanted to threaten them for their cursing. When suddenly a man appeared there who was radiant like the sun. And the man said to John, "Conquer the hearts of these your friends, not with violence, but with charity." And so he asked the man, "Who are you?" To which he received the response, "I am the son of the lady that I will send to be your teacher." So imagine that. His personal teacher was Our Lady. And after this, the Blessed Mother appeared in the dream, and the idea of his future now started to take shape. And then at the age of 10, John started to figure out his ministry, his future ministry. And it's quite amusing. This is how he did it. He attended these shows. There were entertainers performing in the shows. There were jugglers, little people doing magic tricks, acrobatics, all of these things. And so John really studied their techniques. And then he began to imitate them in front of other boys. But with a difference. He would always include a prayer in this and a little lesson from a sermon that he had learnt. And then at the age of 12, John, he was always fighting now with his brother. So he decided to leave home. He was going to go out there and look for work of his own. Well, after a few years, he caught the eye of a very holy priest, a Father Joseph Cafasso. He was an ordained priest, and he became a future saint in the church. But he saw the potential of John. It is quick to pick up things, and so assisted John with his studies. By the age of 20, John had completed his studies, and he could now enroll in the seminary. 6 years later, John Bosco was ordained a priest. And so the two of them, Father John and his mentor, Father Cafasso, they now moved to Turin. And there they took up the ministry of helping the poor, the imprisoned, and also assisting at country parishes. But in the prison ministry, Father John became aware of these predicaments that existed there, these boys who really needed help, because he saw a large number of them, of lads. They were just 12 to 18 years of age. They were of fine health, they were healthy, alert in mind. Lice infected some of them, but they were starved in both their body and their soul. And John Bosco said, "This horrified me. This disgrace, dishonor, and shame were personified in these unfortunates, and many of them were repeat offenders." And so he began thinking now, if these people perhaps had a friend outside who could help them, help take care of them, and steer them away from their ruin, who knows where that may lead? And so, in fact, his dream from when he was just 9 years of age was now beginning to come true. Well, Father John's plan was to found what he called the oratory. It was a place, provided some structure and shelter for these boys. And he helped prepare them as well for future jobs and trades. He gave them shelter, he gave them food, he gave them catechism, he gave them moral guidance and formation. And within just 10 years, he already had they were assisting 800 of these young boys. And less than 10 years more, and some of these boys had already wanted to follow in the footsteps of St. John Bosco. They were joining the Salesian order that he was busy founding. So this was the fruit of his ministry already taking place. And then not long after that, of course, they realized it's not just young boys have these problems, they're also young ladies. And so they founded the Daughters of Mary. These were Salesians that were helping young ladies in a similar situation. And so both branches started to grow. And so certainly St. John Bosco's heart was really touched by the plight of the suffering that he saw, the poverty that he saw in the imprisonment in those situations. And so he loved them with the heart of Christ. And that's what brought them out of this situation. And the future generation of his work was now being inspired and raised up. So we asked John Bosco to pray for us, to assist us in wisdom as well. And do go through to listen to his famous dream prophecy, the most famous one on the two pillars, the future situation of the church, what we may be living through right now, how he foresaw it. Please do join us for that. Do support us in this apostolate. It'd be tremendous if you'll go through to our website. There's a donation page there if you feel inspired. Otherwise, do help us with your prayers as best you can. We do thank you for watching.